The truth does not knock politely on the door of your illusions. It does not wait for an invitation, and it certainly does not care about making anyone comfortable. Sometimes, the truth simply kicks the door off the hinges, shatters every single false thing in the room, and demands that you finally look at what has been hiding in the shadows. Most people do not actually hate your intelligence, your authenticity, or your spiritual depth. What they truly, deeply despise is what your intelligence and your authenticity make them feel about their own manufactured, stagnant, and profoundly unexamined lives. Chosen ones, you know exactly what this feels like. You are currently standing in the center of a profound, isolating, and incredibly heavy spiritual awakening. You have been walking through a season of agonizing shadow work, enduring the crushing weight of isolation, the silent shedding of your past, and the painful process of outgrowing people you once thought would be by your side forever. You have been looking around, completely bewildered by the sudden shift in the atmosphere, wondering why certain people are suddenly exposing themselves, competing with you in secret, or melting down over your mere existence. I am here to completely validate every single ounce of that confusion, because what you are witnessing is not a random occurrence. It is a deeply predictable, deeply psychological reaction to the blinding reality of your evolution. They expected you to stay down. They expected a basic, predictable comeback story where you eventually return to their level, seeking their approval and playing by their low-frequency rules. But what they are witnessing now is not a comeback. A comeback implies a return to a former state. Chosen one, this is a total reset. You did not just patch up the old version of yourself. You completely burned the old blueprint and rebuilt your internal architecture from the absolute bedrock. This is why they are spiraling out of control. This is why they are behaving in ways that look frantic, messy, and downright goofy from the outside. Let us break down exactly why your total reset is causing such massive psychological destruction to the people who are secretly competing with you. Let us get into it. Let us begin. Before we dive into the deep architecture of this dynamic, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, drop a comment with what point hit you hardest, and share the video with someone who needs the reminder. Number 1. They prepared for a predictable comeback, but they were entirely paralyzed by your total reinvention. When people watch you go through a deeply painful or challenging season, the ones who secretly harbor jealousy usually sit back and wait for you to emerge as a slightly more battered, easily controllable version of who you used to be. They expect a comeback, which to them simply means you returning to the exact same baseline, carrying the exact same wounds, and operating on the exact same predictable emotional triggers. But a chosen one does not simply come back. A chosen one resets. The contrast here is staggering. Your authentic, hard-earned internal alignment is a complete paradigm shift, whereas their entire existence relies on you staying exactly where they left you. They operate on a borrowed, insecure, performative facade that requires you to play the role of the struggling underdog so they can feel superior. The deep psychology behind their current meltdown is rooted in a profound loss of control. When you execute a total reset, you delete the old access codes they used to get under your skin. They are frantically punching in the old passwords, trying to guilt you, shame you, or provoke you using tactics that used to work, and getting repeatedly locked out. It is the metaphorical equivalent of them expecting you to just update a slightly buggy app on your phone, only to realize you completely ripped out the hard drive, replaced the motherboard, and installed an entirely new, highly secure operating system. They are staring at a screen they no longer know how to navigate. Elaborating extensively on this, you have to understand the sheer tragedy of their panic. They built their entire strategy around your predictable reactions. Now, you observe their provocations with absolute stillness. From the outside, their behavior looks frantically ridiculous. They are poking a bear that has already evolved and left the forest entirely. They are throwing punches at a shadow of who you were 3 years ago. They see the calm, but not the internal battles. They see the confidence, but not the resilience that built it. Your total reset leaves them shadowboxing with a ghost, exhausting themselves while you simply continue to ascend in absolute, unbothered peace. They are trapped in a loop of their own making, entirely unequipped to process the reality of your indestructible new foundation. Number 2. You force people to violently confront the internal architecture they abandoned in exchange for cheap societal approval. The difference between a chosen one and an imitator is that the chosen one is willing to do the unseen, grueling work of building an internal cathedral of character, morals, and self-awareness. You have spent years quietly excavating your traumas, facing your shadows, and fortifying your mind in complete isolation. Meanwhile, the insecure individuals competing with you have spent their lives throwing up cheap drywall, painting over black mold, and prioritizing the curb appeal of their personality while the foundation rots away. They settled for the illusion of progress, mistaking movement for direction and loud performance for actual substance. The deep psychology at play here is massive projection and a deep-seated fear of their own wasted potential. When they look at you, they do not just see your success or your peace. They see a walking, breathing manifestation of the rigorous internal work they were too cowardly to undertake. Your total reset acts as an inescapable mirror, forcing them to look at their own spiritual laziness. They resent you because your presence demands a level of authenticity they cannot afford to produce. They rely on a script that says life is about faking it until you make it, and you refuse to follow that script. Metaphorically, they have been living comfortably in a dark, filthy room, convincing themselves that the mess doesn't exist simply because they can't see it. Your total reset is the equivalent of walking into that room and flipping on the brightest, most blinding fluorescent lights imaginable. Suddenly, every speck of dirt, every cobweb, and every piece of garbage in their life is illuminated. Instead of cleaning their room, they get angry at you for turning on the light. To elaborate extensively on this, observe how they try to smash the light bulb because they are too lazy to pick up the broom. They expend more energy trying to convince the world that your light is fake than they would ever spend actually trying to ignite their own. They look like someone wearing incredibly expensive, flashy jewelry that they absolutely cannot afford, standing next to someone who quietly owns the entire bank. Your internal alignment is the wealth they can never counterfeit, no matter how hard they perform. They see the calm, but not the resilience. They see the unbothered confidence, but absolutely refuse to acknowledge the grueling, agonizing shadow work that forged it in the dark. Number 3. You stopped operating on their cheap currency of external validation, entirely bankrupting their power over you. One of the most dangerous things you can do to a performative, toxic individual is to completely stop caring about what they think of you. For a chosen one, the spiritual awakening process completely alters your value system. You no longer seek applause. You do not need a crowd to validate your decisions, and you do not require external permission to exist in your truth. Your peace is self-sourced, drawn directly from the divine and your own internal alignment. The contrast with your detractors is blinding. They live and die by external validation. Their entire ego is a fragile, hollow construct propped up by likes, comments, social positioning, and the desperate need to be perceived as winning. The psychology here is rooted in narcissistic supply and the absolute terror of irrelevance. When you execute a total reset, you implicitly reject their currency. You stop trying to prove yourself to them. You stop arguing your case. You stop defending your character against their smear campaigns, This devalues their social power to absolute zero. Metaphorically, they have spent their entire lives hoarding monopoly money, genuinely believing it makes them rich and powerful. For years, they tried to use that fake money to buy your obedience, your reaction, and your submission. Your reset is the moment you simply walked out of their fake game and into the real world. Now, they are standing at the teller window of a real bank, angrily slamming down stacks of colorful paper, demanding a transaction, and you are the bank teller, looking at them with a mixture of pity and absolute calm. You cannot buy a genuine soul with counterfeit validation. This infuriates them beyond measure. Elaborating extensively on this reality, their frantic attempts to smear you or gossip about you are just them trying to convince the rest of the players in the Monopoly game that you are the one who is broke. But you know the truth, and more importantly, they secretly know the truth. They watch you build a quiet, incredibly solid life without needing a single round of applause, and it absolutely tortures their validation-starved ego. They are starving in front of a feast they are incapable of digesting. They see the calm, but not the resilience. They see the boundary, but not the thousands of betrayals that forced you to build it. They are left holding worthless paper while you hold the gold standard of true inner peace. Number 4. Their entire performance looks incredibly frantic next to your profound, unshakable stillness. There is a specific frequency to desperation, and it is overwhelmingly loud. When people are operating from a place of intense insecurity and secret competition, they cannot sit still. They have to constantly post, constantly boast, constantly insert themselves into conversations, and constantly try to manipulate the narrative. They are deeply terrified of silence because silence is where their insecurities catch up to them. In sharp contrast, a chosen one who has undergone a total reset embodies a profound, gravitational stillness. You do not have to announce your moves. You do not have to scream your worth into the void. You are anchored by your authentic, hard-earned internal alignment. The psychological mechanics here involve massive overcompensation. The imitator feels completely out of control because they cannot provoke a reaction out of you, so they double down on their external performance. They are trying to create enough noise to drown out the undeniable fact that you are fundamentally outperforming them on a spiritual level. The metaphor for this dynamic is stark and undeniable. Their behavior is like a cheap plastic wind-up toy, clattering frantically across a hardwood floor, making a tremendous amount of irritating noise, but ultimately going absolutely nowhere. Your presence, meanwhile, is like a deeply rooted, ancient oak tree. You simply exist, drawing water from the depths of the earth, unbothered by the wind, the rain, or the noisy little toy crashing into your bark. To elaborate extensively on this dynamic, you must realize how utterly exhausting it is to be them. Imagine waking up every single day and having to manually put on a mask, carefully curate a false narrative, and constantly scan the environment to see if anyone is paying more attention to the oak tree than to your noisy performance. They see your stillness and interpret it as an attack because your calm refusal to panic highlights their absolute lack of emotional regulation. They want you to be loud, messy, and frantic like them because it would validate their chaos. When you refuse to break character, because your character is your actual soul, not a script, they are left spinning their wheels, looking incredibly goofy and utterly transparent to anyone with an ounce of genuine discernment. They see the peace, but not the internal battles. They see the stillness, but not the profound discipline it takes to maintain it in a world obsessed with noise. Number 5. They are suffering the terrifying realization that they were merely a chapter in your book while you were their entire personality. A highly toxic or competitive person often builds their core identity around their proximity to you, their opposition to you, or their ability to extract energy from you. They defined themselves by their capability to keep you down, to mock you, or to play the role of the superior counterpart in your dynamic. When a chosen one initiates a total reset, you simply turn the page. You accept the lessons learned from that chaotic chapter, you heal the wounds, and you move fiercely into the next phase of your divine purpose. The contrast is devastating. You are moving forward with a rich, expansive, continuously evolving narrative rooted in authentic, hard-earned internal alignment, while they are stuck rereading the exact same page, forever trapped in a borrowed, insecure, performative facade that no longer exists. The deep psychology driving their meltdown is a profound narcissistic injury and a catastrophic loss of identity supply. Without you there to play the foil, to be the victim, or to be the competition, they suddenly have to figure out who they actually are, and they are finding out that the answer is nobody. They relied on a script you absolutely refuse to follow anymore. The metaphor here is powerful. They are acting like a heavy, rusted anchor, violently thrashing at the bottom of the ocean, screaming and demanding that the massive ocean liner above them stop its engines and come back. But you have already cut the chain. You are miles away, navigating open waters, guided by the stars, while they are left sinking in the dark mud of their own making, furious that their weight no longer affects your buoyancy. Elaborating extensively on this is exactly why they obsessively monitor your life from fake accounts, ask mutual friends about your progress, and constantly find ways to indirectly reference you. You are their most defining trait. It is incredibly tragic when you zoom in on it. You're out here building empires, healing generational curses, and discovering new dimensions of your spiritual gifts, and their entire daily agenda is simply reacting to the fact that you survived their absence. They are the author of a book with no plot, desperately trying to steal pages from your autobiography. They see the calm, but not the internal battles. They see the moving ship, but absolutely refuse to acknowledge the heavy, rusted anchor you had to cut loose to finally sail free. Number 6. You survived the exact devastating storm they secretly prayed would completely destroy you. There is a very dark, uncomfortable truth about human nature that most people refuse to admit. Some individuals in your life actually wanted you to fail. They smiled in your face. They offered empty platitudes, but deep down, they were banking on your destruction. When you went through your lowest point, when you were broken, isolated, and seemingly out of options, they felt a sinister sense of relief. Your failure was the only thing that made their mediocrity feel acceptable. But the chosen one does not perish in the fire. The chosen one is forged by it. Your authentic, battle-tested resilience stands in blinding contrast to their borrowed, fragile, and externally validated facade. The deep psychology at play here is massive cognitive dissonance. Their entire worldview was predicated on the assumption that you were not strong enough to make it. When you not only survive, but emerge completely revitalized, sharper, and more aligned than ever before through your total reset, their brain literally cannot process the data. It shatters their reality. They are furious that the universe did not punish you the way their bitter heart demanded. The metaphor is undeniably clear. They spent years watching you build your life, secretly hoping a hurricane would come and wipe it out. When the storm finally hit, they stood comfortably on the sidelines, acting like the big bad wolf, ready to laugh as your house blew down. But when the skies cleared and the wind stopped, they were absolutely horrified to see that you didn't build your house out of straw or sticks. You built it out of solid, unyielding brick. Now their jaw is on the floor, and their lungs are exhausted from trying to blow down a fortress. Elaborating extensively on this dynamic, their current behavior is a frantic attempt to cope with the reality that their ill wishes have absolutely no jurisdiction over your divine protection. They see the calm, but not the resilience. They see the victory, but not the thousands of invisible, agonizing battles you fought on your knees in the dark. Because they lack the spiritual fortitude to survive what you survived, they try to diminish your victory by calling it luck or trying to find tiny flaws in your new foundation. It is incredibly goofy. They are critiquing the paint job on a fortress that they could not even dream of constructing. Your survival is the ultimate defiance of their toxic script. Number 7, they can endlessly mimic your aesthetics, but they cannot ever replicate your spiritual frequency. We live in a world absolutely obsessed with copying. When an insecure person sees a chosen one shining with true, authentic light, their immediate instinct is not to find their own light, but to steal yours. They will study the way you speak, they will buy the clothes you wear, they will adopt your hobbies, and they will even start parroting the deep spiritual truths you have spoken. They construct a highly performative facade that looks, on the surface, somewhat like you. But the contrast between their external performance and your internal alignment is the difference between a lightning bug and a lightning bolt. Your essence is source energy, theirs is purely imitation. The psychology behind this frantic mimicking is imposter syndrome dialed up to the absolute maximum. They know, in the quiet, lonely moments of their life, that they are a fraud. They know that every word they speak is borrowed and every aesthetic choice is stolen. They live in constant fear of being exposed because they rely on a script that is completely unnatural to their core. Metaphorically, they are like a peasant who broke into the castle, stole the king's heaviest, most magnificent gold crown, and jammed it onto their own head. Sure, from far away, they might look like royalty, but up close, you can see that the crown doesn't fit. It is violently slipping over their eyes, and the sheer weight of it is crushing their neck. Worse, the stolen crown is spiritually burning their scalp. This is why their attempts to copy you always look so forced, so try-hard, and so inherently cringeworthy. To elaborate extensively, frequency cannot be faked. You operate on a vibration of peace, divine purpose, and grounded authority through your total reset. When they try to emulate your actions without possessing your vibration, the result is deeply unsettling to watch. People can intuitively feel the lack of authenticity. It is why they never get the same respect, the same open doors, or the same genuine love that you receive effortlessly. They are stacking cards on a windy table, desperately trying to build a castle, while you are quietly stacking bricks on solid ground. No matter how perfectly they copy the design of your building, a strong breeze of reality will always blow their fragile, paper-thin imitation completely over. They see the calm, but not the resilience. They see the crown, but not the massive, heavy responsibility required to wear it. Number 8. You aggressively removed the mask they assigned you, exposing the incredibly toxic script they forced you to read. In toxic family dynamics, bad friendships, or manipulative relationships, insecure people survive by assigning roles. They needed you to be the scapegoat, the mess-up, the accommodating people-pleaser, or the emotionally reactive punching bag. As long as you wore that mask and read the lines they wrote for you, the illusion of their superiority was maintained. But a total reset means you did not just ask for a script change, you walked entirely off the stage. The contrast is visceral. Your authentic, hard-earned internal alignment stands completely opposed to their borrowed, insecure, performative facade and their desperate need to direct a false reality. The deep psychological trigger here is the sheer panic of a collapsed narrative. When the supporting actor realizes their worth and refuses to play the victim anymore, the entire production comes to a screeching, violent halt. They fear the loss of control, and their fragile ego is unable to comprehend a reality where they are no longer the righteous main character. The metaphor here is perfectly clear. They are like a tyrannical director standing on a stage, furiously screaming action and demanding that the play continue, completely oblivious to the fact that you have taken off your costume, exited the back door of the theater, and are now living a real, beautiful life in the actual sunlight. They are left on stage, yelling lines to an empty chair, looking absolutely deranged to the audience. To elaborate extensively on this, observe how frantically they try to cast someone else in your role, or how desperately they try to drag you back into the drama. They will try to bait you with guilt, saying things like you have changed, or you are not the person they used to know. Your response, whether spoken or silent, is simply that you evolved. They expected you to forever bend your spine so they could use your back as a table. Now that you stand up straight, all their plates, their glasses, and their carefully arranged lies have crashed to the floor, shattering into a million pieces. They are not mad that you grew. They are furious that they have to clean up the mess of their own exposed toxicity. They see the calm, but not the resilience. They see the exit, but absolutely refuse to acknowledge the agonizing script that forced you to leave the theater. Number 9. Your absolute unwavering silence became a terrifying mirror they cannot look away from. For the highly performative, toxic individual, engagement is oxygen. It does not matter if the engagement is positive or negative. An argument, a defense, or an angry text message is all proof to them that they still have access to your nervous system. When you execute a total reset, you realize that your peace is worth exponentially more than proving your point. You withdraw your energy entirely. The contrast between your quiet, boundaried internal alignment and their desperate, attention-seeking performative facade is absolute night and day. The deep psychology driving their erratic behavior is the sheer terror of the void. When they throw an accusation at you or attempt a smear campaign, they are casting a line into the water, desperately waiting for a tug. When you give them absolute silence, you are completely starving their ego. Without your reaction to justify their toxicity, they are forced to sit alone with their own bitter, miserable thoughts. Metaphorically, they are standing at the edge of a seemingly bottomless dark well, screaming insults down into the depths, fully expecting an echo of your pain to bounce back up to them. But because you have entirely removed yourself from the well, there is no echo. There is no splash. There is only deafening silence, leaving them to hear nothing but their own heavy, ragged breathing and the ugly sound of their own bitter voice. Elaborating extensively on this level of unbothered non-engagement looks absolutely agonizing for them to endure. They will escalate their behavior, throwing larger and larger stones into the well, hoping to finally get a splash. They will manufacture chaos, post subliminal messages, or try to recruit flying monkeys to provoke you. But your silence remains an impenetrable fortress. They see the calm, but not the absolute discipline it takes to maintain it. They realize that they cannot manipulate a ghost, they cannot argue with a brick wall, and they absolutely cannot defeat someone who refuses to enter the ring. Your silence is the most aggressive, devastating response you could ever give, and it is driving them entirely out of their minds. They see the peace, but not the internal battles. They see the silence, but not the agonizing restraint required to keep your peace intact. Number 10. They foolishly built their entire foundation of confidence on your previous vulnerability, and now their foundation has completely crumbled. There is a specific type of energetic parasite that targets chosen ones during their developmental or unhealed phases. These individuals scan you for insecurities, traumas, and open wounds, and they subtly position themselves as the stronger, wiser, or more stable presence in your life. Their confidence was never actually inherent. It was entirely relational. They only felt big because they were intentionally keeping you small. The contrast now is incredible. You have engaged in brutal, authentic shadow work, healing those vulnerabilities and fortifying your internal alignment, while they have remained exactly the same, relying on an externally validated, borrowed, insecure facade. The psychology here is the absolute collapse of a parasitic dynamic. When a host suddenly develops a robust immune system, the parasite starves. They fear your new strength because it exposes the undeniable fact that they never actually had any strength of their own. They were just siphoning yours. Metaphorically, they spent years standing comfortably on your shoulders to look tall, proudly pointing out how much further they could see than everyone else. But your total reset means you finally realized you were carrying dead weight. You simply stood up straight, squared your shoulders, and calmly walked away. In doing so, you didn't push them, you just removed the platform they were exploiting. Predictably, they fell flat on their face into the dirt. Now, they are looking up at you from the mud, furiously claiming that you tripped them or betrayed them. Elaborating extensively on this profound shift, you must recognize the absolute tragedy of their anger. They are not actually mad at you. They are humiliated by their own sudden lack of elevation. They realize that without your vulnerability to exploit, they are remarkably average, painfully uninteresting, and fundamentally weak. They see your new boundaries, your healed heart, and your uncompromising standards, and they know with absolute certainty that they can never climb on your shoulders again. They are forever grounded, watching you soar. They see the calm, but not the resilience. They see the height, but absolutely refuse to acknowledge the heavy burden you had to drop to finally reach the sky. Number 11. Your sudden enforcement of ironclad boundaries feels like a violent act of aggression to their deep-seated entitlement. When you allow people free, unrestricted access to your energy, your time, and your resources for long enough, they begin to view that access not as a privilege, but as an absolute, unquestionable right. The old version of you, prior to the reset, likely struggled with people-pleasing, guilt, or the desire to keep the peace at your own expense. But the reset changes the fundamental laws of physics in your universe. Your authentic, hard-earned internal alignment demands self-respect, standing in stark contrast to their inherently exploitative, externally validated performative facade. The psychological phenomenon occurring in their minds is rooted in narcissistic entitlement and the severe grievance of a revoked pass. When you finally say no, when you close the door, when you block the number, or when you simply refuse to be available, they do not interpret it as you protecting your peace. They genuinely interpret it as you aggressively attacking them. Their fragile ego cannot comprehend the concept of a boundary, so they frame it as an assault. Metaphorically, they are like an uninvited guest who has spent years walking through your front door without knocking, tracking mud onto your carpets, eating the food out of your fridge, and sleeping on your couch. One day, you decide enough is enough. You simply put a deadbolt on the door. You don't yell at them, you don't fight them, you just turn the lock. The next day, when they try to aggressively kick the door open like they always do, they break their toe against the reinforced wood. They are now rolling on the porch, screaming to the entire neighborhood that you are a vicious, cruel person for locking your own door. Elaborating extensively on this dynamic exposes just how goofy and frantic their performance truly is. They will literally play the victim regarding a situation they entirely provoked. They will cry about being shut out, completely ignoring the years of disrespect that forced you to build the wall. Your boundaries are the ultimate test of their character, and their furious, entitled reaction is all the proof you will ever need that locking the door was the best decision you ever made. They see the calm, but not the resilience. They see the locked door, but not the endless theft that forced you to install it. Number 12. They are completely exhausted from fighting a bitter, relentless war that you are not even participating in. There is an incredible phenomenon that occurs when a chosen one completely detaches from the low vibrational games of this world. You shift your entire focus upward. You become obsessed with your divine calling, your personal healing, your financial stability, and your spiritual ascension through your total reset. You simply stop looking sideways to see what anyone else is doing. In massive contrast, the insecure people in your periphery are entirely fixated on the horizontal axis. They are constantly measuring, comparing, and competing. Their borrowed, insecure, externally validated facade demands that they defeat you in order to feel successful. The deep psychology here is the agonizing phenomenon of shadowboxing. Because you refuse to enter the arena, they are left to invent an imaginary rivalry. They fear that if they stop competing with you, they will have to face their own utter lack of original purpose. Metaphorically, they have stepped into a boxing ring, fully gloved up, mouthguard in, sweating profusely, throwing violent combinations, ducking, weaving, and expending massive amounts of energy. But they are swinging wildly at a ghost. You are not in the ring. You are not even in the building. You are miles away, sitting quietly on a mountain, watching a beautiful sunrise and sipping tea. They eventually pull a muscle, collapse in the corner of the ring, gasping for air, furious that you beat them, when in reality, you didn't even know a fight was scheduled. To elaborate extensively on this exhausting reality, you must understand how much psychic energy it takes to hate someone who is thriving. They have to constantly twist your successes into failures in their own minds. When you achieve something great, they have to convince themselves you cheated or got lucky. This mental gymnastics requires a staggering amount of spiritual calories. You are literally draining their life force just by existing and succeeding. They are aging faster, growing more bitter, and becoming deeply fatigued, all because they refuse to lay down the weapons in a war they entirely fabricated in their own sick minds. They see the calm, but not the internal battles. They see the victory, but not the absolute discipline it takes to completely ignore their pathetic invitations to fight. Number 13. The total reset completely severed the spiritual and energetic cords they relied on to drain you. We must speak about the spiritual mechanics of this dynamic beyond just the psychological. Before your awakening, you likely operated as a massive power grid for a lot of unhealed vampiric people. Because you naturally possess light, empathy, and high-frequency energy, people who operated in the dark naturally attached their parasitic cords to you. They didn't have to generate their own joy or peace. They just siphoned yours whenever they needed a boost. The reset was not just a mental shift. It was a severe spiritual severing. Your authentic internal alignment closed the energetic loops. You sealed the leaks. You stopped pouring your sacred energy into bottomless, ungrateful vessels, entirely dismantling their borrowed, insecure, performative facade. The deep psychology of their reaction is literal energy starvation. They are experiencing severe withdrawal symptoms. Their fragile ego relied on your energy to animate their dead spiritual limbs. Metaphorically, it is like they are a massive, complicated entertainment system, a giant TV, massive speakers, flashing lights, but they have absolutely no internal power source. For years, they simply kept their heavy extension cord plugged directly into your outlet. Your total reset was the exact moment you calmly walked over, grabbed their cord, and pulled it out of your wall so you could plug in your own refrigerator, your own lights, and your own life. Suddenly their screens go black. Their music stops. The lights die. They are left staring at their own dark, silent reflection in the dead screen. Now they are frantically scrambling around in the dark, desperately trying to find a new outlet, or violently trying to jam their cord back into your socket. Elaborating extensively on this, This is exactly why they will send that random thinking of you text message months after a falling out, or why they will pick a fight out of absolutely nowhere. They are just trying to test the socket to see if there is any juice left. But your walls are sealed. The power is reserved for your purpose, your family, and your divine mission. Their absolute inability to steal your light anymore leaves them spiritually starving, shivering in the cold reality of their own empty existence. They see the calm, but not the resilience. They see the severed cord, but completely refuse to acknowledge the massive parasitic drain they placed upon your life. Number 14. You have ultimately become the living, breathing proof of everything they are utterly too terrified to attempt. At the very core of all the jealousy, all the smear campaigns, all the mimicking and all the frantic, goofy behavior is one devastating truth. You represent their unlived lives. A chosen one who executes a total reset embodies the absolute peak of bravery. You were willing to lose everything, friends, status, comfort, and false security, in order to gain your authentic soul. You walked into the fire, you faced your demons, and you completely rewrote your destiny through authentic, hard-earned internal alignment. The contrast is the final nail in the coffin of their ego. They live in a borrowed, performative, externally validated prison entirely because they are cowards. They are too afraid to do the grueling shadow work. They are too afraid to be disliked. They are too afraid to stand completely alone. The deep psychology of their hatred is fundamentally rooted in profound self-loathing. You are the unyielding manifestation of the bravery they completely lack. Metaphorically, life is a massive, incredibly deep ocean. They have spent their entire lives standing in the shallow water, wearing bright neon floaties, complaining loudly about how cold the water is, and bragging to everyone around them about how perfectly they are splashing. Then they watch you. They watch you walk past the shallows, dive headfirst into the freezing, terrifying depths, navigate the dangerous currents, and emerge swimming beautifully, effortlessly cutting through the massive waves. They hate you because your mastery of the deep end exposes the embarrassing, cowardly nature of their floaties. To elaborate extensively on this dynamic, they cannot forgive you for showing them that true greatness was always an option they simply refused to take. Instead of taking off their floaties and learning to swim, they stand in ankle-deep water, screaming to anyone who will listen that your swimming technique is wrong, that the deep end is stupid, and that you are actually drowning. It is a tragic, pathetic display of massive insecurity. You do not need to correct them. You do not need to swim back to the shallows to prove anything. You simply keep swimming towards the horizon, leaving their tiny, insignificant splashes far behind you. They see the calm, but not the internal battles. They see your magnificent flight, but absolutely refuse to acknowledge the agonizing courage it took to jump off the cliff. When you zoom out and look at the grand architecture of all of this, one truth becomes absolutely, fundamentally impossible to ignore. It was never actually about you. The panic, the frantic behavior, the mimicking, the gossip, and the ridiculous attempts to compete were never about your physical actions. The real target has always been your energy, your alignment, and the quiet, devastating power of your total reset. They are fighting a bitter, relentless war against their own reflections, and they are merely using your presence as the battlefield. They see the calm, but they refuse to acknowledge the deep, unyielding resilience that forged it. They see the unbothered confidence, but they cannot fathom the thousands of internal battles you fought in the dark to build it. They are operating on a script that is rapidly decaying, while you are operating on a divine blueprint that is eternal. Therefore, let this serve as your final empowering reminder. You do not owe them a single performance. You do not need to step back into the ring. You do not need to defend your character, and you certainly do not need to seek revenge. Your absolute unbothered success is the most devastating revenge you could ever exact upon those who wished for your downfall. Keep your boundaries made of iron. Keep your silence loud. Refuse to accept their counterfeit currency and never apologize for replacing the entire operating system. You are a chosen one. This was never just a comeback. It was the final total reset, and you are building a legacy on solid rock that their petty storms can never ever touch. Just keep growing. Just keep ascending. Just remain deeply, unapologetically authentic. Before you go, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button, drop a comment with what point hit you hardest, and share this video with someone who needs the reminder. Stay chosen. Stay blessed.